This video is brought to you by the No Fear community.
Thank you very much for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
So, going to the issue of the digital cowboy, defined as this generation of people born before 1985, well immersed in technology and the internet, and they think differently. How has your leadership style had to change or not with this new generation?
Well, first of all, let me say that I have 3 boys of my own who are digital cowboys.
Oh my goodness.
They were born from 1988 on, so they definitely fit that category. And managing them, they're all in college now, and managing them through that process, I think, was a handful. So I would certainly say that parenting in the age of the digital cowboy has changed.
I'm feeling your pain.
Almost certainly. Though I would say that managing and leadership in the age of digital cowboys in companies and organizations hasn't changed that much. People still look for leaders to, define direction, organize groups so that everybody's doing their own thing in a coordinated way. So I somehow feel that hasn't changed much. Of course, the tools have changed that allow you to do it. Email, of course, is important. Collaborative tools as they're coming along. So I think the tools have changed, but I don't think leadership has changed that much. I hope that's not too contrarian, but that's how I see it.
So what are the main, what are your values or principles of leadership that you think are timeless that continue today?
Well, authenticity, I think we've talked about that before, is really important. We humans have this innate ability to very quickly figure out if somebody is authentic or not, and I think there's big companies generally get this rap that they're not, right? Look at Dilbert. Dilbert's all about that lack of authenticity, and so and I think the digital cowboy generation certainly is very attuned to that. I think because they do have this ability for peer-to-peer communication, which in the past wasn't that evident. So if you're not authentic, it's going to spread like wildfire. American entrepreneurs have been very fortunate that over the past 60 years, the biggest market for anything in the world was here.
Was here.
Yes. Earrings, shoes, cars, clothes, houses, anything. The biggest market was here. That's changing now. So last year was the first year in 100 years that Chinese consumers bought more cars than American consumers. In 100 years. So what does that mean? That means that entrepreneurs who previously had the advantage of local markets now have entrepreneurs in those markets competing against them. And that's a big change. And that's happening not just in cars, it's happening in consumer goods, it's happening in food, because these emerging countries, the BRIC countries, are getting wealthier, and these consumers want all the same things we have.
Right. So what do we do about that?
Well, I've been sort of arguing that American entrepreneurs, number one, have to begin to learn to compete on price.
I saw that article that you wrote.
Yeah, our business schools have been telling our managers and leaders that we should go up the value chain. Well, we're so far up the value chain that we're competing in small markets now, and I think we have to compete in these large global markets, and I know that our entrepreneurs can and compete well. So that's one big point. The number 2 point is, Adams taught us, 150 years ago that economics is not zero-sum, that it's all about you doing what you do well and I do what I do well, and we'll both be better off. And so we are going to do well if these countries do well. We didn't suffer because Japan came out of the ashes of World War II and became a wealthy country. We didn't. So we won't with China and India.
What, if anything, ever keeps you up at night? What is it that you fear?
Well, my children, have cousins in India, and we've been taking them back to India quite regularly. My biggest fear is that they don't have the work ethic to compete against people from those countries. Because I think, we have the self-confidence and the intelligence and the sort of knowledge to continue to be on top of the world. But we can't lose our work ethic. I mean, that's really important. And you know, there's all kinds of indicators of it. I mean, it's this fear of immigrants.
Yep.
To me, that's a fear that somehow the other person is going to work harder than you and take your job.
Right, and Pekka made a good point that globalization really is the opposite, where you put yourself into the foreign environment and you adapt to the foreign way of doing it and you grow and change because of that. So
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. So I think, you know, I encourage entrepreneurs, I encourage our students. Most of these schools now have very active study abroad programs and programs to send kids abroad, because it's extremely important that they understand, you know, what these cultures are like and what these consumers are like, because you want to go sell to them.
okay. Now, you've had a lot of successes, but we hear that failure and mistakes are a big part of success. So is there a time or an example that you got from a mistake and how you were able to apply that to your future success or your leadership?
Oh, of course. I mean, you know, obviously everybody's in the business of spin these days, so you have to present your best face forward on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever. But clearly, I mean, there's no person out there has got a 100% success record, and I'm no different. You know, I have plenty of failures. The great thing about America is that I think it looks at failure the same way. It looks at failure as an opportunity to learn, and it really rewards those people that use it as an opportunity to learn, as opposed to, there are some people who have a tendency to blame everybody else for failure, and the system is very good. It can pick out those people in a second and won't give them a second chance, but the ones that learn, it absolutely does.
Great. Okay, well finally, before we let you get back to your very busy day, is there anything that you would like our audience to know about Boston University and what you're doing here now? Something, your future plans, like something that just happened that you could share?
Well, not just Boston University. I think the reason that I've come here is because I really believe that American research universities, both public and private, but particularly the private ones, are an asset that nobody in the world is going to be able to replicate for at least 30 years, more likely 50 years.
30 to 50 years.
Yes, and they're trying hard. They're throwing money at it all over the world. You know, I was in Saudi Arabia. They built this research university. They put $10 billion into it already. Great labs, getting great people, but honestly, it'll take them 2 or 3 generations before they replicate what's here. I really think that the rebirth of America, you know, we've been seeing all this turmoil in the markets and everything. Everybody's sort of counting us out, which I think is completely misguided. I think the rebirth of America is going to come from these universities. It's going to come from the students who study here. It's going to come from the research that's being done here. And frankly, it's also going to come from all the global connections we have. BU has a huge foreign student body. They're all over the world.
Yeah, you really do.
They're all over the world. They need to be more connected back to us. Because
so it's about the relationship.
It's totally about the relationships.
This video is brought to you by the No Fear community.